Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. We got the LG V50 and the Galaxy Note 10 Plus comparison. So which one of these phones should you buy? We're going to look at the side-by-side steals, check out PUBG, the specs, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and start off with the price of these two older flagships. So the LG V50 is going to be much cheaper. You can find this phone easily around 200 bucks if you go on eBay, Amazon. They're just very cheap. The Galaxy Note 10 Plus is coming down slowly but surely in price, but it's still roughly around $350. It's still hovering around like that upper $300 price point. So just know that there's going to be kind of a price difference here. And let's go ahead and jump into the hardware on these two phones. So these are two really well built older flagship phones here. Like I said, I think I prefer the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. It's one of my all-time favorite designs. But the LG V50 has a really classy look to it. Not only that, but it actually is one of the rare phones to not have any type of camera bump. It's completely flat back. So it also makes it kind of slippery as well too. But it's completely flat and it just still looks really clean even in 2022. Yeah, so as far as the height, you can see Note 10 Plus definitely a taller device and overall just bigger device. But I think the I don't know, they kind of feel the same weight actually as well too. Which is pretty interesting. So as far as the hardware, one of the things that you'll notice, which we'll get into, you got the quad DAC or the physical headphone jack, and then you have the S Pen. So it really comes down to that. Do you want a headphone jack with the quad DAC, or do you want the S Pen to be able to draw and, you know, basically have a stylus on deck all the time? And we got our physical fingerprint scanner. This has a in-display fingerprint scanner we'll get into. But as far as the hardware, both beautiful devices, both IP68 dust and water resistant, and they both feel really great in the hand. Now, if we look at the display quality, the display quality is actually pretty similar on both of these phones, but I think the Galaxy Note 10 Plus to me has the better display. It's better. It's got the punch hole plus a more bezel-less design on here. So just to go over these specs, the V50 does have a POLED HDR10 display. It's 6.4 inches, so it's slightly smaller than the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and it's a 1440p 538 for the PPI. So it's a very sharp, high resolution display. The Galaxy Note 10 Plus, slightly bigger dynamic AMOLED display, and this has HDR10 Plus. And then you have a 6.8 inch display. It's 1440p 498 for the PPI. So again, you can pretty much see the difference with the displays here as far as the display design. Now, as far as quality, you can't really tell the difference. They pretty much look identical in terms of quality. Both really nice OLED panels here. It just comes down to the, you know, notch and the, you know, screen to body ratio. But these are two very, very nice looking displays. They also do a very good job for outdoor use as well too, so I had no issues taking, you know, photos in direct sunlight. So as far as display experience, you know, it really comes down to, because bigger is not always better, but as far as quality wise, I think the Note 10 Plus just looks better to look at. It looks a little bit more modern as well too. So let's go ahead and get into the specs a little bit more here. So here are Geekbench scores, and the LG V50, it does have the Snapdragon 855 Adreno 640 GPU, micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 6 gigs of RAM. The Galaxy Note 10 Plus, it does have also the Snapdragon 855 Adreno 640, also has micro SD card support. But with the Note 10 Plus, the base model storage for this phone is actually 256 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM, so it beats the V50 in terms of storage on the base model. Now, of course, you have SD card support on both, but it still doesn't matter because it still beats it on storage for the base model. Now, as far as these scores go, they're pretty similar in performance. Honestly, I think the V50 does slightly better in the benchmarks, I think. But there's also one thing to note. This is running Android 12, One UI 4.1, and that was the last update for this phone, major OS update. It has 3 years of security patches. The LG V50, this Sprint version, has not gotten anything past Android 10. If you have an unlocked V50, 9 times out of 10, you got Android 11. And also LG confirmed that this was getting Android 12 just like the LG V60. So as far as general use, a lot of people will be surprised to see how fast these phones actually run. You can see the V50 slightly opened that up a little bit faster. But it is pretty amazing. These phones really don't miss a beat when it comes to performance. Now, as far as gaming performance, both of these phones do a great job with gaming. They game pretty much the same. So if we were to go ahead and open up PUBG here, both of these do a really good job. And like I said, I've always recommended these LG devices if you're a gamer on a budget. Alright, so no matter which phone that you go with, you're going to get pretty good gaming performance. You have the same exact settings, HDR Extreme on both of these. They can even go up to Ultra HD. And they both do a really good job with gaming. I actually prefer to game on the Snapdragon 855 chips because they don't get as hot as the new 8 Gen 1 chips. Now, I know it doesn't matter for a lot of people because they play with a case, but if you play, with your phones without a case, those newer phones, they get really hot. The 855 does not really heat up like those phones do. But regardless, you'll be able to play PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, whatever, on these phones at really great settings, and they really don't lag or miss a beat actually. So very impressive as far as the performance goes. Alright, so I do want to go ahead and talk about the additional features here. So it comes down to the stylus versus the headphone jack. The V50s, you can get the V50s. It does have dual screen case capability. This is the standard V50, but here in the United States, it's kind of hard to find a V50s. So that's why we just cover the V50. But basically, the stylus is for drawing. It's really high quality, stylus or S Pen, and Samsung does a really great job with this. Samsung also throws in a ton of features with One UI as far as the Samsung desktop experience, the secured folders and stuff like that. With the LG V50, basically, if you plug in your headphones, you get really high quality audio out of this phone. So it really comes down, like I said, to those kind of things. As far as the fingerprint sensor goes, the V50's fingerprint sensor is pretty fast, and also the Galaxy Note 10 Plus's in-display one is also very fast. It's pretty much instant as well. Alright, so I got both speakers at max volume. Let's go ahead and check these out. Alright, so the V50 speakers are nowhere near close to as good as the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. This is actually not LG's best speaker. I was never a fan of the LG V50's speakers. I just didn't like how they did this top speaker right here. The top speaker just does not put nowhere near as good a sound as the one on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. That's why it's so much louder. So the top speaker on here is significantly better than the one on here. So that's why the Galaxy Note 10 Plus just sounds overall better. Let's talk about the cameras on these devices. Before we look at these side-by-side stills, let's go over the camera specs. So you have a triple camera setup on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. It is a 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto, 16 megapixel ultra wide with a 0.3 depth sensor. It shoots in 4K 60 on the front and back, and it has a 10 megapixel selfie cam. The LG V50 kind of has a similar camera setup as well too. It's a 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto. It also has a 16 megapixel ultra wide, 4K 60 on the back, and then a dual camera setup on the front, 8 megapixel standard, 5 megapixel wide lens, and then it's shoots in 1080p 60. So let's go ahead and check out those side-by-side stills. Note 10 Plus. LG V50. As far as battery life, both of these phones basically get pretty much the same screen on time for me, surprisingly. So the LG V50 has a 4,000 milliamp battery with 18-watt charging. The Galaxy Note 10 Plus has a slightly bigger battery on here. So it's also got a 4,300 milliamp battery, but it is 45-watt charging. And then it also has reverse wireless charging, which basically means that if I wanted to charge up the LG V50 or anything, as you can see, it starts charging. So you have that feature that you don't have. They both have wireless charging as well too. So the battery experience overall is, to me, is just better on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus because, one, you have the reverse wireless charging and this charges faster at 45 watts. Now, as far as screen on time, it's essentially the same here. So these are two really nice phones. Be sure to let me know, which one do you guys prefer? Which pictures did you prefer? Which one would you buy? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.